Hi, I'm Danny Gasparini, and welcome to this segment of Penn Voice. I'm joined today by my good friend, Becky Cooper. Becky, you and I go back a long way.
We do.
We're not here to talk about Friends for Youth.
No, for a change.
Yep, but we are here to talk about the Safe Mentoring program that you have now founded. So before we do talk about Safe Mentoring, kind of give us a little bit about your background,
Okay.
so we can share that with our viewers.
Great. Okay. As you mentioned, Friends for Youth is a local mentoring organization that makes both one-to-one community-based matches with at-risk youth and community adults, and school-based, offers school-based services as well. And I was there for 39 years before I stepped away a couple of years ago. And that led me on my journey to, of course, be concerned about keeping kids safe. When I first started 39 years ago at Friends for Youth, there was virtually no information and no open conversation about child predators, who they are, how they might go to programs to look for youth. I just really questioned how do I know that these mentors, potential volunteers coming across in our office, were safe.
Right.
And so I set out to learn more and did a lot of research from one particular researcher, Dr. Nick Groth, and also hooked up with the San Jose Police Department's Child Exploitation Unit to really try and understand and build profiles and red flags to look for and understand this issue more. So as about almost 20 years ago, wrote a book called Safe, along with some of my colleagues at Friends for Youth at the time, so that we could help others learn how to be aware of this issue as well. It's estimated that about 7% of the general population have a predilection toward youth, sexual predilection toward youth.
Right.
And mostly we're talking about male predators and boys that are victims. And they go to youth organizations to meet young boys,
right,
and build relationships. And so it is of vital importance that anyone working in a youth setting,
right,
understands this.
And, right. And, you know, having worked in the YMCA, that's where you and I met when
Yes.
I was with the
Yes.
YMCA and you were with Friends for Youth.
Right.
You know, there was often this process where anyone that was going to
Yes.
volunteer within the organization,
Yes.
whether it's in our child care facility or program, they're all fingerprinted.
Exactly.
Right? So the fingerprinting
Yes.
is supposed to tell you whether or not there are any prior convictions, if there are any molestation issues, or if there are any kind of
Right.
criminal background, right? But now what I've learned from you over the years is typically our predators tend to not get caught very quickly.
Yes.
And so while the rest of us were thinking that we're safeguarding our children by having these measures in place,
Yes.
like fingerprinting,
Yes.
that was not the end-all be-all, and there was much
Exactly.
more that we had to do, which are some of the features in
Right.
your SAFE training and in
Yes.
your SAFE book. So go beyond that for
Okay,
us.
beautifully said. It's going beyond the background check. You and I both noticed the newspaper this morning
Right.
had a headline about a predator arrested after 27 years of molesting boys. And that is the case. One of the detectives I've worked with in San Jose talks about by the time he catches someone, they have molested victims into the hundreds, and it's been just years and years of activity. It's a very difficult thing to prove, to arrest someone for. So most predators have not been caught. So while it's vital to do a background check,
Right.
and fingerprint check, that is not going to catch most predators. And so you do need to go well beyond that into an interview and again into looking at behaviors and what red flags there might be. So
Right.
we really appreciate all the volunteers who come into organizations who understand that there needs to be a screening process.
And can you give us a couple of examples of what, beyond that fingerprinting, you might do as a youth-serving organization?
Okay, yes. An organization could, we've developed, and I have through SAFE, so you could have me come out and consult with you or a youth organization, and I can tell you how to run through an interview and what things to look for.
Right.
We have application, what questions to ask on an application, and the learning behind that. Some different behavioral characteristics. While there's not a checklist that you can just check off, you certainly can pick up circumstances that don't feel right, or gaps in someone's background check, or maybe someone's over-involvement with youth. They might look like a perfect candidate on paper, but when you dig deeper, they really almost have an overabundance of youth experiences in their lives and maybe no adult relationships. So that's an example of something to look for.
And I think you referred to a headline this morning about a gentleman in Menlo Park, and one of the things that we know to do, and maybe is the positive and negative about social media, but don't forget to check those individuals' LinkedIn pages or Facebook pages, because a lot of times you can find out information about those individuals if they are saying that they are associated with various organizations, and you call that organization as a reference, and they are no longer or never have been.
Or never have been. Great point, Danny, because we didn't have that in the old days of screening, and it's people's lives are up there, and that's definitely, we should look there as part of the screening process.
Right, and I think beyond even nonprofits that are serving youth, it's also church organizations, it's also government organizations, it's also sheriff activities leagues and police activity leagues, and all schools,
parents, absolutely,
and it's something that I think not just for the providers, but for the workers and for the board of directors and for other volunteers, because that's another way in which you want your volunteers to help you identify different behavior that they may be seeing in other peer volunteers.
Excellent point. It's really helpful that there is knowledge of this at all levels of the organization, from the top down and down up. So the board, as you mentioned, board of directors, needs to understand the process and why and the background behind SAFE, so that they can support their staff who are actually implementing the screening. And so an organization needs to take a strong stand on safety, which actually can be the first protective factor for them. If someone sees that, oh, this organization is very serious about their safety, their screening, the way they monitor matches once they're made, then that's going to deter someone from going to that organization.
And I think where you start is with staff and leadership and boards, because at times we know we've also seen headlines where it's been the staff member. Again, background check is cleared, references check out, and then you find out a decade later that there was this past or there is this current situation happening. So I think it's important for everyone to understand that this isn't just for volunteers, that this is a safe training to identify staff members and all involved.
Board members, anyone involved in a youth organization.
Right. So let's spend this last minute on just, how do we get a hold of you? How do we get a hold of the book? How do we understand the SAFE training program so that we can bring it into our organization and our companies?
The website is safementoring.com. You can go to the website, and there's a place where you can connect with me or send a note. The email is becky@safementoring.com. SAFE can be purchased there or through Amazon. It is on Amazon. And from the website, just give me a call and we can chat about programs, needs, and what I might be able to offer in the way of training and around this issue.
And I wanted just to ask you this one last question. Technical assistance. Is there anything more than what you had just said that folks could be provided with technical assistance?
Thank you for asking that. Yes, my many years of mentoring experience has also made me an expert in the mentoring field. So best practices, best programming for youth. So all around youth development programs and mentoring programs, providing volunteer trainings for the mentors. All kinds of issues around anything to do with mentoring and youth development programs. I can and have done consulting for many local and actually national organizations in that regard.
As we see more and more organizations bring together that vital relationship, we just want to make sure we're doing it safely. And people are properly trained, especially today where we have new words and gender identification and sensitivities around gender identification. We want to make sure that as adults, we're learning how to be a great mentor and volunteer as well.
Exactly. And as you said, the connections are so vital. And
Right.
the availability of positive adult role models for youth is so important.
Right. Well, Becky, thanks so much for taking your decades of work and not deciding that you were just going to retire and play golf, but that you were going to continue to work in this field to ensure our children in our communities are not only safe, but they are flourishing. And I might say that your program is national. It's not just for us here in San Mateo County, that you've done trainings outside of our Bay Area and outside of our state as well.
We have actually. Michigan State University Extension courses uses the SAFE curriculum to train communities, the whole community on safety. So thank you. Yes.
Yeah. All right, Becky, thanks so much for joining us, and I hope we'll come back with an update on how we're doing with our SAFE programs.
Great. Thank you, Danny.
And we'll see all of you next time on Penn Voice.